It is our goal, though, that players be able to move quickly through the world. It's not a game about travel. Travel time's not something we want in it. So as we work through, we're focusing on a lot of different systems, putting in waypoints. The checkpoint system for death is actually meant to reduce travel time. Resurrection, when you're with other players, is meant to reduce travel time. The fact that our dungeons actually have exits in them, so you don't get to the bottom of a dungeon and then have to walk all the way back. So all these things are meant to reduce travel time, to make sure that players can get back to towns fairly regularly, unload their inventory, and not constantly be just walking without actually being in action.
Hi. So in the demo, the wizard seemed really slow-paced, and you guys are definitely trying to get a faster-paced game going. So you guys gonna try and fix that, or is there different specs where one's maybe faster and one's slower?
I get it. I think it's a symptom of the skills that we selected for the demo. Originally, when we thought we'd try to just give you a character and let you spend the skill points, but then we knew people were going to only have about 15 minutes. So we decided to just give them a loadout. And Arcane Orb, which is the kind of primary attack skill you start with, is a very slow moving. That's kind of its downside. But other attack skills like Magic Missile and Electrocute are near instant, so they're a lot faster. So you can adapt your playstyle. If you want something that's faster, you can certainly adapt your playstyle. You can also focus on items that increase cast speed, movement speed, boots, things like that. So you can definitely have a faster pace of play than that skill, depending on your loadout.
In last year's build, one of my favorite things was with the Witch Doctor, you could set your zombie dog on fire or poison it, and it would look like that, and it would do that kind of damage. It was really cool. But in this year's demo, that's not there at all. What happened to it?
That's a really good question. One of the struggles that we had with the Witch Doctor zombie dog in particular was figuring out, why would I choose to plague my dog or light it on fire? What are the situations that I would choose one versus the other? Is the gameplay supposed to be that the player's trying to keep the fire on the dog all the time, but it keeps falling off? Or is it that for some situations I want a fire dog, and for some situations I want a plague dog? There was also issues where sometimes players would see this loud, fiery dog on their screen and not really know how it got there because they didn't realize their skill did it, so there were some readability issues. So when we toned down the fire effect, though, it made it hard to know whether it was actually on fire or not. So we had a bunch of different difficulties on it, mostly in terms of communicating it to the player and having it be a meaningful gameplay decision as you went along. We still want to keep the idea of customizing your dog in different ways, and one of the ways we'll probably look at doing that is through either additional skills or the rune system, which Jay mentioned earlier today. We weren't able to show at BlizzCon this year, but that's definitely a whole other level of customization on skills, which isn't even being shown right now.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I have a couple ideas phrased in the form of a question. First off, phasing in Diablo 3. Wouldn't that be awesome to change the environments based on the quests that you do? And speaking of quests, class-specific quests. I think it'd be awesome to implement quests where 8 barbarians have to join in and jump over chasms or whatever it is they have to do. And if you implement that, what are my stock options like?
I'll take the phasing question, and then I don't know, Leonard, if you want to get or you or Michael can get the question or idea. So the phasing technology is really cool. Those of you who don't know what that is, if there's not a World of Warcraft fans here, I'm sure there's one or two. It's all right. We like that game too. It's a really cool technology they have to be able to change the world dynamically over time, change the terrain, change the NPCs and what's in the world. Currently, we don't have any technology like that. Our game is not a persistent world in the same way that an MMO is. So it's not been a high priority for us to develop a technology like that. If we want to change our world, our story is a bit more linear, it's easier for us to do that. That technology is pretty, even though we've already developed it for another game, putting it into our engine would not be trivial. It would actually be really time consuming. So until we see some kind of obvious benefit, we probably won't explore something like that. It's a cool idea, and maybe one day we will. Maybe one day we'll find a use, or we'll constrain against the game that we have and want to add something like that. And I'll let the Quest guys take the Quest question.
So one of our goals with Diablo 3 is that we really want to expand the story and the character of the heroes of the game. There are a lot of ways we're doing that. One of the ways you might have noticed is that there's a lot more dialogue for the hero characters. They will participate in conversations. They have very specific characters, and I think that, you know, with that being our goal, Class Quest sounds like a great idea.
Good afternoon. A very frustrating part of Diablo 2 is to fight hell-level bosses and have some scrub join your game and loot all the gear, and none of you guys who actually fought the boss get any of the gear. How will item looting work in Diablo 3 with regards to unique items and elite unique items?
Oh, have I got an answer for you? I love this. Is my favorite question. All items already in Diablo 3 are dropped on a per-player basis. So every monster that dies has a chance to drop loot for every player in the game. I say a chance because some creatures don't drop loot, but a boss, he would drop loot for every player. And you would see your loot, and your friend would see their loot, and the scrub would see his loot, but you wouldn't be able to see each other's. So you can pick up any item you see on the ground. It's pretty much for you.
Hi. I was wondering if from Diablo 1, the expansion, Hellfire, have you considered implementing the cornerstone of the world to trade items between your own accounts?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that Hellfire is not actually a Blizzard expansion. It was developed by another company, so we don't recognize it as an official part of the Diablo universe. That being said, doesn't really matter with the question you're asking, but there will be a way to transfer items between your characters. We haven't decided exactly what method we're going to use, but it absolutely will be in the game.
I really like Diablo's story and all the classes, but I'll admit I'm a point-and-click noob. It's something I've never been able to get my head around. So has the gameplay format become more new player-friendly?
In terms of like how you experience the story, or
Fighting, spell using, just combat.
I don't know. I mean,
I think that's more of a usability question than to use a really official game development kind of highfalutin word. In terms of introducing to the player, we spend an enormous amount of time designing and redesigning our UI over and over again. And we're going to put in a tutorial system that will introduce players to new elements, and we're going to try and make it fairly robust. So we do think that Diablo's a pretty easy game to play. That being said, you can't rest on that fact. You have to make sure that your players have a really easy introduction to the game so that they can, they can get into it very easily. We want